Hello and welcome to Shamrock Foods Kitchen Conversations, where we're going to talk to Shamrock partners just like you about how they approach the hospitality business, stay on top of trends, and manage a successful restaurant business. I'm your host, Jeff Piven, business solutions consultant with Shamrock Foods, and I'm joined today with Shamrock Foods partner Paul Sullivan, owner of Esther's Neighborhood Pub in Denver, Colorado. Good afternoon, Paul. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. How's it
Of
going?
course, man. It's awesome to be able to connect, even though we are so far away. Great to see you. Uh, for the
Yeah.
audience, we'd really like for you guys to participate in this conversation by commenting below. I can actually see the questions that come up. I see Ricky Madrid is here. What's up, brother from Yuma? Super cool, man. So, and then ask us any questions you want, either to me or to John, or just drop by to say hi. Maybe if any of the fam out there are here to say hello from Denver or surrounding areas. And we'll respond during the broadcast, or if not, I know I get on at night and I respond to everybody's questions and comments. So thank you everyone for joining in. Well, let's just jump in, Paul. Tell us a little about how you got into the restaurant business, how you got into this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started by selling beer, basically. I sold beer to bars and restaurants in Denver for a while, almost about 14 years. I sold beer for a distributor for about 10 years and then a brewery for 4 years. And during that time, I was lucky enough to get married and had some young kids, and actually have lived in the same little neighborhood in the city of Denver, but it's a neighborhood called Virginia Village, and it's a great neighborhood without any restaurants or places to hang out. So I was selling beer to all these great bars and restaurants and doing that for a long time, and also living in a neighborhood that didn't have a bar or restaurant. So
Right, and then the
um,
light bulb went
it was
on.
just kind of something I always wanted to get in. My history is definitely sales, not necessarily a culinary history. So I just kind of started putting a plan together and talking about it a lot, and sort of figuring out how it could work and all that. And then it was really my wife. I think she just probably got sick of hearing me talk about it, really. And there was a good opportunity in this neighborhood to. I just really wanted to open a place that was family friendly, neighborhood friendly, that you could walk to or ride your bike to. That wasn't your typical bar food, that just sort of had elevated bar food that was good, nothing too fancy, but still great ingredients, and a place you could bring your family and watch a game and still have a great meal. And that's sort of how it all came together. So really got my start selling beer to bars and restaurants, and this is where we are now.
Cool, man. Well, you obviously have the plan down pat. I mean, it executed it flawlessly. Now you've got two locations. So, the name Esther's for those folks that are watching us across the Southwest and even into the Northwest now. Where does the name Esther's come from?
Yeah. So we've all probably learned about esters in like our high school chemistry class, which I don't know about you. I didn't remember much of that, but it's a pretty common term in the beer brewing slash industry, and it's really to say it simply, it's sort of the aromas that are released when you are making alcoholic products. So basically, when yeast interacts with sugars and wort, it releases a lot of aromas. Those are referred to the esters of the beer. So really the smell of the beer. And so that's where the name came from. It's kind of a daunting task to name a restaurant. So we had a lot of different names and ideas going around, and that's just a term and something that sort of describe, we don't consider ourselves necessarily just a beer bar, but that was sort of my history and how I got into the business. And we do have a lot of great beers here, and that's where the name comes from. It's really the esterification of alcohol.
Well, I think it's great, man. The way that you've connected your history in the beer industry and your love of beer, and noting that you have plenty of beer in the restaurant, and then a lot of the food and recipes are beer based, beer forward, or beer paired, is like so on brand from top to bottom. And we encourage anyone watching out there, if you are thinking about naming your bar right now, make sure that it's personal, make sure that it flows through everything that you do, and make sure that it's something that you believe in, because I could just tell how passionate you are about this name and about this brand. And this was your first one. You were talking about Virginia Village, which you guys call OG, which is super cool. um, tell us about how the second location came about. We have a lot of partners right now that are looking at expansion. What was your thought process on picking the second location?
Yeah, thanks. It happened pretty organically, I must say. We were, sort of clicking along, and this was my first time actually, obviously owning a restaurant or really working on this side of this type of business. And the first few years were tough, and I noticed we just started getting better at it, and we started to get it a little bit better, and then another opportunity came up which is now our second location, which is still city of Denver, but it's another neighborhood sort of on the other part of town, which is called the Park Hill neighborhood in Denver.
Right.
And it was just another location that was an older building that the developers were not going to rip down, but would rather sort of rehab an older building, which I thought was really great.
Right.
And they were also in the middle of a neighborhood, also in a neighborhood with it's a great neighborhood with a lot of history and young families and not a lot of restaurants. So they were really behind the family aspect and the neighborhood aspect of our restaurant, and that appealed to us. And so it was really just, the location seemed great. We seemed to have a better handle on what we were doing, and people seemed to like it. So that was really the reason we decided to take that step. And again, it hasn't been easy all the time, but it is a great spot for Esther's and our brand and sort of what we're trying to do. And in a great neighborhood, we're lucky to be there as well.
Right. Well, I mean, what is easy, really? Um, you know, well, but what you've talked about, I mean, you've already mentioned like 3 or 4 times, was the neighborhood, and the people, the loyal following of customers. I mean, and even the folks that are commenting already, saying Esther's is awesome. This is so cool. Can we talk for a minute just about that loyal following, this like cult following you call the fam, and how you built that, and how do you keep them coming back?
Well, thank you. It is really about the coworkers I'm lucky enough to get to work with. I mean, it's not an original concept by any means, but the better people you have to work with every day and learn beside every day, and sort of really, I don't really have to teach them what we're trying to do much. We're lucky enough to hire great people, and they're the sort of the living, breathing aspect of the brand. And that's how it came together. We just, like I said, I was lucky enough to work at New Belgium Brewing for a while, and that company really had a great culture. And I was lucky enough to be a part of it from 2010 to 2014. And in that time period, that was my biggest takeaway. It was not only the product, they make world-class beers, but that was just sort of the beginning. It was more of how they treated their people, how they treated their customers, how they treated their window washers who came up to wash the brewery windows. I mean, that really left an impact with me, and that was what I tried to create at Esther's, and that is where it comes from. I mean, it's absolutely the people I'm lucky enough to get to work with. They are the people that interact with the customers, and if my people are happy and in a great work environment, they, for the most part, are sort of building that culture and sort of that, following that we're lucky enough to have going so far.
Right, that's great, man. And Paul, you chalk this up to luck quite a bit, it sounds like, but I think it's really intentional, man. I think it's a carefully curated culture, and it's a great paradigm of thinking about people where you know usually it's like, well, the customer comes first, but in this paradigm, if you take care of your people will take care of your customer, and they're on down the line. And I think it's a really successful model, for hiring, for culture, for an HR brand, as it were. um, let's switch gears for just a sec. I was on your website. I just saw the coolest thing where you can buy gift cards for yourself, or you could buy gift cards for a friend. I just thought it was like the coolest thing to do, especially amidst all of the cash flow challenges that we're having right now in this industry. Were you guys in the gift card game before all this happened, or how did that come about? And how hard is it to manage something like that?
Yes and no. So yes, we absolutely sold gift cards prior to COVID. I think COVID, and it leads to a bigger question, has forced us to look at every single aspect of the business and where we can offer more products that aren't necessarily within the four walls of the restaurant. And also with the amazing neighborhoods and the communities that we're in, and people really wanting to support us
Right.
without necessarily wanting to come eat at our restaurant, which we totally understand given the
Yeah.
circumstances. So it was a combination of that stuff, and it did require a lot of, us sort of looking at what we did in terms of our website, in terms of how we show up online, in terms of all of that. And it's forced us to make some changes. We did launch a new website on a different platform that's much easier for our customers and people to buy gift cards online or to
It's a
buy
great
gift cards for
website.
our friends. And it's just literally has forced us to sort of not reinvent everything, but look at everything and how can we offer the Esther's product without having people come in the restaurant? And that's sort of where that came from.
Right. Well, and especially in a community-driven restaurant, you know, folks want to help whatever it takes, even if they're not getting food. These are the same restaurants that are supporting, the Little League team or providing gift cards for raffle baskets, things like that. And I think there was a huge sort of movement for reciprocation that came, and you created a great conduit to accept that gift from the community. And I really wanted to call that out. And for anybody that's watching right now, cruise onto Esther's website, buy a gift card probably, but check out how it is, presented, and how easy and just like totally flows into, there's not a lot of difficult questions. It's really quick and easy. And I love that. I love that it's easy. And we're
Thank you.
talking about COVID while we're on that. I mean,
Mhm.
not to bring that up, but we kind of have to. You guys are doing a lot of to go and takeout, right?
Yes.
One thing I really like to get at, and amidst all this takeout and to go and delivery, etc., is how can you maintain the high standards for hospitality that you have at Esther's, even amongst like a to go and a more transactional kind of situation.
It's really difficult for sure. And
Yeah.
it's something that is, but pre-COVID, that was not a big part of our business, and in probably short-sighted on us, but we were lucky enough to have people really wanting to come to Esther's and feel the vibe and sort of be a part of that whole thing. And then it went to go primarily during COVID. So we have really had to work on it really hard in terms of executing the dishes on a to-go platform. Again, we're lucky enough to have great people and really good people at sort of the back end programming of all that, which is something that our customers or customers in general don't really think of. But the very nature of ordering something online versus ordering something in a restaurant with a human server is there's a lot of requests. There's a lot of differences. There's, allergy restrictions or whatever it may be. So a combination of really getting the technical and the logistical aspect of that dialed, which was really hard to do, but we have figured that out. And then training our people to, just the simple stuff of double checking the orders before they go out, or the communication between the kitchen and the people actually taking the food out of the restaurant. And as a customer, putting yourself in their shoes, if they are hesitant to come in the restaurant due to COVID, which is understandable.
Right.
How do we make that experience just as good for what they're doing? So we have set up outdoor tents where people can literally just go on our website now, pay for everything. We have the food waiting on a table on a tent outside that we're monitoring for temp and all that. They can drive right by and get it. So stuff like that we have adapted to, and still, like you said, trying to keep that brand and the quality of the food there.
Right.
And dealing with all the outside delivery services and websites and the logistical aspect of it. And it's difficult. I feel like we're getting better at it. And regardless of COVID, I don't think it's going away after COVID, so it's something we're going to continue to invest in and try and get better at, as esters, for sure.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing the best practice. And, those of our viewers out there, just know that the juice is worth the squeeze. And, we have great resources at Shamrock, and we could connect you with Paul, or we'd be happy to discuss that. We're getting a call out here by my brother Tim Manis about how good the Fat Tire nachos are before the fish show. This guy's too much, man. I love Tim. Um,
Nice.
well, hey, we're about halfway through. Let's take a break real quick and say, if you're just joining us, welcome. I'm here with Paul Sullivan of Esther's Neighborhood Pub out of Denver, Colorado. If you have any questions, comment below. I can actually see the questions as they come up, and it's really cool. No, but everybody's throwing just kind of like awesome compliments. The fam is just like giving props on the nachos, but we haven't had any hard hitting questions quite yet. If you have any questions, please enter those in. We'll get back to them now. Oh, I do have a new comment here. I don't know how to get to it, but something's definitely there. Um, if you have any questions, we'll get to it during the show. If not, we'll get to it afterwards. We'll definitely answer whatever it takes to get you the knowledge and best practice coming from Paul, very successful neighborhood pub owner, Esther's from Denver. We're stoked to be here. So, Paul, let me throw you kind of some general questions. What's one piece of advice that you have out there for our viewers right now to help them succeed? What's one kind of like, this is a baseline? What's one thing our leaders, our business owners can do to help their restaurants succeed?
In terms of COVID or just in general?
Just kind of in general, because just in general, what's one thing, what's one leadership kind of quality that you could pass on to our restaurant partners out there that might be just kind of at their wits' end, maybe that are thinking about giving up? What's one thing that you can tell them to help keep them going?
Um, well, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big question. I would say one of the things that I've thought about a lot lately, which COVID has sort of shown a light on, is and we talk about it a lot, is being pretty good on the details, like all the financials, all of the books, all of the stuff that are sort of analytical data, that the numbers have to be there to be true, to really evaluate your business, especially when things get hard, because no matter what, if you're a restaurant owner right now, things are difficult. So
Yeah.
Before trying to sort of reinvent the wheel because we're in COVID and, oh my God, what do we do? I think, like, for us anyways, and for me, it's been, okay, fundamentally, what do we do? And are we doing that really, really well? And are our numbers absolutely perfect? Which they're not, and we're trying to get there. And so I think, like, in this time of changing regulations and changing attitudes and changing everything, for me anyways, to really dial it down to the fundamentals of our business, I mean, the absolute product going out, the costs associated with that, the labor associated with that, sort of how the people, because we don't have as many coworkers as we did before COVID. So the people we do have, are they happy? Are we doing what we can for them? Are we putting them in the best position to succeed at their job, even though it is a difficult job at the moment? Really dialing in those fundamentals and those, just hard numbers that, you have to absolutely pay attention to, especially right now. And then I think this COVID, as terrible as it is for everybody, is going to make us better for it in that regard. We have, and we're not being jerks to people and laying everybody off. We are simply looking at every aspect of our business fundamentally, and the analytics of it, and the basic stuff we do every day, and really trying to dial that in as best we can. So that would kind of be my advice right now. I mean, time will tell, right? But that's what we're working on at the moment.
Well, I love it. And, back to fundamentals, back to basic, back to the foundation of a business, above and beyond just having, cool dishes and great beers and stuff like that, but it's like sweating the small stuff and not letting, a nickel here and a nickel there get by you. You know, stop the flow of that river of nickels. Pay attention to the little things, because you can take some of the, not I want to say wasteful expense, but things that you might have just frivolously just not watched as closely in the past, and reallocate those assets to take care of your staff. And you guys have had a tremendous lack of turnover and taking care of your people, and it's really just kudos to that. We've got a question. How did you create that infectious positive culture with your loyal staff? Is a question that we're getting. So talk to us about staff culture. I know we talked about the customer base. Tell us a little bit more about your staff culture and how you created that piece.
Yeah, I think I know it's such a big question and probably one of the most important things we do, especially as owners or managers. And at the same time, I feel like the answer is relatively simple in my mind. And again, I learned this through a lot of people I was lucky enough to work for. It's just like treat people the way you want to be treated, at work, and set them up for success as much as
Golden
possible.
rule.
Like actually genuinely care about them, and also have a rigorous interview process, and don't hire people that don't necessarily vibe with what you're trying to do, and what we're trying to do is really not reinvent the wheel at all, but like really caring about what we do. I feel like the people I work with, especially some of my top managers, are all really great at their jobs, and I get to learn from them every day,
Right.
and that is the kind of people I want to surround myself with. And what I figured out, and this isn't my line, I learned it from somebody, but it's like nice, smart people generally like working for other smart, nice people, And so let's, that's how I think of it. And Emily, my wife's a big part of that as well. She really believes in sort of that attitude, and that is something her and I, when we were sort of getting it together and starting the business, was like, hey, we want to have a place where we're really like going to work, and we're not necessarily best friends with every single person who works here, but we are respectful and glad to work with every single person who works here. And I think that breeds off itself and sort of gets into the customers, and I feel like that's sort of where it comes from. That's what I've been doing, and so far that seems to be how it's been working, I would
Well,
say.
you must be a pretty cool dude, since you've got a ton of cool
I'm
people
not, I
around you,
swear. I'm not.
along with a lot of cool customers. Hiring like-minded people, and what I heard you say was hire attitude first and foremost, right? Like attitude and aptitude, you can always teach aptitudes. Attitudes can't really teach that. So hiring that, it's a great call out. I appreciate that. Well, you were talking about a rigorous interview process. Can you tell me like one of your like key or marquee interview questions?
It's not so much a question specifically as the experience overall, I would say.
Oh, okay.
And it's not just one interview. It would more be like, hey, and also on the person who is here to get a job as well, I want to make sure that they're into it. So it's more like, hey, you sit down, typical interview, talk with our managers or whatever, but then, hey, let's get on the floor for a little bit. Let's work a few shifts. I want to get feedback. I would love for when a coworker gets hired here, that a lot of people who are already coworkers kind of vouch for this person. Was like, hey, I did a training shift with so and they were awesome, and then you
Right.
get 4 or 5 people who are already coworkers to sort of buy in on that. Then it's not upper management's decision as a new coworker. It is sort of the team, like, hey, this person's great, sort of fits the vibe. And to
Right.
that person, hey, are you liking where you're at Esther's? So I would say it's less than sort of one question, more of, hey, is this going to be a good fit? Are we getting what we want? And likewise to that person
Right.
as
Well,
well.
that's awesome that you say that, because it totally makes sense for the way that you've created your culture and the way you've created the chemistry for it to actually be like the final decision of the employees and coworkers, I think that's really, really smart. And, I'm thinking back when I started bartending, we always had tryout shifts,
Yeah.
or in the kitchen, you would call it a stage, right? And
Yeah.
I think maybe
Absolutely.
that's lost on today's kind of, well, let's ask them about where they went to high school and what was your GPA or where have you worked before. And it's like, really, you can talk the talk, and there's a lot of professional, interviewers out there, but let's see who can walk the walk. And I think
Yeah.
it's really cool to see how does the puzzle piece fit? Because even though you're a great looking puzzle piece, it might not fit here in the puzzle that Esther's has. So, man, that's really cool. I hope that's insightful, um, for some folks out there. Well, let's talk for just. I've got you for 5 more minutes. I just, with all these challenges, kind of taking the wind out of the sails of restaurant operators. Um, how do you stay inspired? What's inspiring you right now?
Oh, a lot of things. I would say it is a really tough job at the moment with COVID. At the same time, I still think it's one of the best jobs out there. I mean, we get to throw a party every night. The party looks
Love
different
that
right
saying.
now.
I really love
And
that saying.
yeah, I mean, and it's true. And I've always felt like that. And that's what I love about this business. I mean, like I said, the party's different right now and it might look different. And my coworkers might be wearing a mask their entire, they are wearing a mask the entire shift, but they're still awesome, the same people under that mask. And so that kind of inspires me. I mean, we have such a great community. We're in such great neighborhoods. We have so many
Right.
wonderful customers that have an expectation of us to continue to be Esters and continue to be a part of this neighborhood. And that is, but again, it goes back to my coworkers and my people. They inspire me. I mean, they're incredible. And this whole COVID thing has thrown a ton of curveballs at everybody.
Right.
And my coworkers are the people who have to execute those different guidelines every single day, and they've been amazing at it. So I know we've all heard it before, but we're all in this thing together, and that's an inspiring place to be. It's not great for anybody right now with COVID, and of course I continually worrying about the dangers of getting people sick, and how do we operate esters and not ever get someone sick. So I mean, it's a tough position for all of us to be in, but again, my coworkers and definitely our customers continue to inspire what we're trying to do every day.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Always going back to the team. And, in our industry, we've always been, acutely sensitive to whether it's foodborne illness or the current kind of illness. So we're all acutely aware. And, I thought that we were, way ahead of the curve on being sanitized and all of that stuff. I mean, because we all had the chemicals, in like retail stores, and none of those guys have quat sanitizer. None of those guys have, any red sanitizer buckets. They probably didn't even know what that stuff was. So we've been uniquely equipped in our industry and well trained. I mean, you guys are food service certified, all of that stuff, to serve safely. And I know your customers are appreciative of the safe environment. One last thing I want to talk to you about is that we love food. We're a food company. Food is in our name. You guys love food, obviously, and beer. I'd love to sit and talk more about beer. We're running out of time. Tell me about a dish that you love right now, or perhaps an ingredient that you love right now. Like, give me a peek around the corner, what you're into. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I'm not that complicated. I love pizza. I really do. I've always loved it. It's my favorite food. I love any kind of it. We started with, we have some sort of signature pies that we've had, and we rotate some in and out. And there's one specifically called the My Sweet One. And it is a Hawaiian style pizza with pineapples and cream cheese and jalapenos. And that's absolutely my favorite
Nice.
pizza. And I know there's a lot of debate in this world about pineapple on pizza. I'm not going to go there or whatever,
I
but
love it.
for me, I
I can't
love
be
it.
mad at any pizza.
That's my thing. And again, that is another thing coming down to the fundamentals. That's one of the pizzas that brought us to the dance, and one of the ones that has a special place in my heart. And yeah, with that being said, we're always trying to see what's out there, and we love going to, other people's restaurants in town. We're friends with a lot of those guys, and my mind is continually blown by the coworkers we have here and stuff. We just put this pumpkin cheesecake on our menu as sort of a seasonal dessert, and it might be the best thing I've ever tasted in my entire life, you know. And I'm continually blown away, and I love what we can do, but I love pizza, and that's my favorite one. So
I love pizza too, and I wish that I could teleport from our office here in Phoenix to your restaurant right now and try some of that stuff, but unfortunately, the laws of physics are going to prohibit that. Um, we're about out of time here, so thank you to our audience here for joining Shamrock Foods Kitchen Conversations, and a special thank you to Mr. Paul Sullivan. Such a cool dude, such an awesome conversation today, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. We hope everyone out there enjoyed the show. Keep the comments coming. We still have some some comments coming in here from across the West. Keep your comments coming. I'll get back to it, or Paul will. We'll stay tuned for October 22nd for our next kitchen conversations. It's top secret who that's going to be with, but I'm sure it'll be exciting. Paul, thanks again, man. I can't wait to get out to Denver to have a pint and have a slice of that pizza with you. Thanks again for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Can't wait to have you. Thanks again for having me, and thanks to Shamrock. You guys have been a great partner and a good vendor, and it takes everybody to get through this thing. So we appreciate everything.
For sure.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Paul. Take care,
All
brother.
right. See you guys.